Okay, we are live. There's so much to cover in this story right now. I mean, this really went from like 0 to 100. There are just almost every video I see right now on my feed is about Alberta independence. So we'll just go through quite a few.
I've always been clear that me and our United Conservative Caucus are supportive of a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. When you look at the polls, they suggest as many as 30% of Albertans have lost hope. That's about 1 million people. And I'm not going to demonize or marginalize a million of my fellow citizens when they've got legitimate grievances. What we need to do is we need to give Albertans hope.
Expect the U.S. administration to respect Canadian sovereignty. I'm always clear in my conversation with President Trump to that effect, and then move on to what we can do together.
I described it as an old-fashioned word because we haven't had to use it for a long time. In my opinion, that is treasonous activity. And it needs to be called out. It needs to be
crazy. I mean, I want to keep doing videos on this subject, but there's just so much to cover today.
Stopped.
I mean, yesterday this topic really got huge.
Some of the reaction there around the table between the premiers, you heard the Premier of BC and Alberta there, as well as the Prime Minister, to that reporting initially from the Financial Times, which alleged that this group, the Alberta Prosperity Group, its leader and some of its delegates had traveled to the United States and met with people associated with the White House in order to secure some level of funding. That was the reaction in Ottawa. CTV News here in
There was such a massive reaction. It's crazy.
Calgary spoke to the leader of that group, Jeffrey Rath, to get his reaction. Have a listen.
Childish, ridiculous, silly, unbecoming a premier of a province. You know, I mean, it's just dumb. But I mean, we're happy that he does it. I mean, honestly, God, like, you know, he's going to get another 100,000 Albertans to go sign our petition. So, and it's, you know, again, we all know who David Eby is. Like, he jumps to, like, he's like Doug Ford, you know, you must respect my authority. I have a veto over your pipeline. You know, you will not have a pipeline. You know, like, we all think he's a joke, right? I mean, it's, you know, he is what he is.
If there's one thing I'm getting from you, you see it as positive publicity.
It is. It's so stupid.
For the separatist movement.
Of course it is. The overreaction is not going to work.
Every time these idiots open their mouths, the backlash in Alberta, like, is through the ceiling. Like, you know, Eby can't even...
They don't treat Quebec separatists like this at all.
Come up with an original insult, right? Jason Kenney made front page news, you know, 6 or 7 months ago by calling me a treasonous kook.
Hello,
right?
Joel.
And the result of that was literally tens of thousands of comments directed against Mr. Kenney, you know, telling them that we fired him once, we don't need to hear from him. And it made it absolutely clear that a non-politician like me has more political support in Alberta than a former premier of Alberta, because people are sick and tired of federalists coming here and telling us what to do. Like, people are tired of Jason Kenney. They're tired of David Eby. They're tired of Carney.
That's the leader of the Alberta Prosperity Group.
Oh, there's Kenny. Nice. I didn't even know this is going to be good.
I
haven't heard this guy give an interview in a long time.
Bring in now former Premier of Alberta and former federal Conservative Cabinet Minister Jason Kenney, who joins us live. Mr. Kenney, good to see you as always. Thank you for making the time.
Good to be here, Vashi.
So I want to start off on the point that Mr. Rath made there, which is essentially the allegation that anytime someone who is kind of pro-national unity speaks out about it, it ends up serving his cause. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, but that's not, I mean, saying treason, that's not being pro-national unity. That's a whole nother thing.
You know, I don't really listen to anything this guy says. He's a clown and a carny barker and thrives on conflict, and he just randomly insults people. But
you just started the interview by calling him a clown.
There are, as Premier Smith has said, many Albertans with very deep, legitimate and longstanding grievances about how the Federation has treated our province, and more particularly our resource industries, and Ottawa needs to demonstrate it's sensitive to those concerns. So I think you know, what Albertans are looking for in this debate is not a trading mat, you know, kind of an insult competition, but rather real issues. And I think that the MOU signed by the Prime Minister is a significant step forward.
It's not, though. Like, it doesn't really mean very much. It's not even something you can see. Just an announcement and a piece of paper doesn't mean anything.
And he just said this week he's committed to a West Coast pipeline. And
let's see it. Like, they don't seem very committed. They don't seem urgent at all.
Premier Eby said he admitted what I think is the obvious, which is that he can do nothing to stop it. So I think we are making progress. I think we Albertans should take yes for an answer. We've got a pipeline to the West Coast in the Trans Mountain expansion owned by the federal government, creating billions of dollars of value. We've got huge expansion coming with LNG.
It's just going to be tapped along like it has been probably for the last 20 years. Just, oh, little scrap here, little scrap there. Just shut up so we can get back to our elbows up crap.
We've got a federal government finally committed to another West Coast pipeline. We're producing and selling more oil than we ever had in our history. And the idea that turning into a landlocked statelet with no argument, no legal power
Alberta's already landlocked. It doesn't, I mean, Canada definitely doesn't work well with Alberta right now. Hasn't been.
Build coastal pipelines or expand our infrastructure, our export infrastructure, would be, I think, economically suicidal. So I think the separatists, what they want to do is play on anger as opposed to actually deal with those very real facts.
I wanted to ask you, because there is like large public opinion.
He didn't really lay out any facts. He basically just said, no, things are going to get better. Trust me, they'll get better this time. What were the facts that he laid out? That it's landlocked? It already is landlocked. Alberta can't like do things it wants to do in many cases without Ottawa's approval already.
Polling firms, for example, who are trying to assess how significant the sentiment is, and particularly not just the sentiment of feeling sort of overlooked as you describe it, but feeling as though the best course of action out of that would be to separate. And they keep indicating that it's a minority. The people involved in that movement think that it's a lot more, and certainly say that to a number of my colleagues based on the turnout that they're seeing at some of their events.
Sure.
As someone who, led the province.
I think the video's frozen here.
For a number of years, a gut feeling as sizable the movement is.
The movement itself, well, let's look. Alberta separatism really started as a movement about 50 years ago, around the time of Pierre Trudeau's National Energy Program. And there have been separatist parties on the ballot of almost every federal or provincial election in this province since then. So by my count, about 24 federal or provincial elections since 1980, during which they have won one seat for 6 months in a provincial by-election at the height of the NEP, which they promptly lost. Typically, when separatist parties go on the ballot in this province, they get, in a handful of rural ridings, they might get 5%, province-wide 1%.
Well, it's clearly higher than that now.
2%. So that shows you what the activist core of this is. However,
what is it, 5%?
I think a lot of Albertans are looking at using this prospective referendum as a lever to express their broader.
How do you know that? This guy's full of crap, man. How do you know that?
Frustration. And, the argument you hear from those people, I call them frustrated federalists. They're people who proudly sing "O Canada" at hockey games. They have kids who have been in the RCMP or the military. Maybe some of them moved here from other provinces, but they think the province has gotten a raw deal. And they say, hey, Quebec has managed to get special consideration in the Federation with the knife to the throat strategy. So I think that is a challenge for federalists, which is to say that there will be.
This might be part of it, but I don't know how. Like, he's talking like that's just this massive group of people that don't actually want to leave. They just want leverage.
A better deal for the province and its economic future with a government and so they're
consulting around 1 million people in Alberta probably isn't the best idea at this point. Calling them traitors. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. I agree. How are you doing, Gear? Hello, LDS. What up?
Has to be a yes.
It's interview. This is the former Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, and he's doing an interview here on CTV. I just put on CTV. I didn't even know he was going to come up, but This is the former premier of Alberta, and he's very much against separatism. He was a conservative, but maybe like maybe a Doug Ford type of conservative. I'm not exactly sure, but he seems pretty milquetoast.
To Alberta. When Preston Manning started the Reform Party, remember his slogan was "The West wants in." We didn't hear these kind of rumblings when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister, and there was a government that broadly understood and respected the concerns of the West and Alberta. And so I just think it's important for Ottawa to demonstrate that, not just in words, but also in actions, so we can demonstrate to those frustrated federalists that there's nothing good that can come from this. It will just create the debate itself, will create massive investor uncertainty. In Quebec, the election of the PQ in '76 led to a flight of people, of capital, depreciation in real estate values, business bankruptcies. We don't want any of that. We don't need any of that.
Are you worried about the prospect of a referendum? And I ask, I know the analogy is far from perfect, but I keep being reminded of Brexit and the initial thought that let's do it because there's no way this thing could actually go forward, or in this case, maybe there's no way it's going to be, as you and others have pointed out, an overwhelming majority. But are you worried about something like that actually?
Hello, Mr. Clean. Do you think so? That's so funny. Yeah.
Taking place and the risk inherent to it.
This is the first time I've seen him do an interview in maybe 3 years. I'm sure he has. I haven't seen any of them.
I think the chances of a majority of Albertans voting.
Maybe he's using this as a way to get himself back in the national spotlight, maybe being a vocal opponent to the separatism.
To become a landlocked mini state, lose its free trade access around the world, have to, get visas and work permits to go to the rest of Canada, not be able to build any pipelines because we don't have any a government, any constitutional authority from the federal government to ensure
all that stuff are things that would need to be worked out. It's not. I mean, I doubt that would even be the case. Like there'd be maybe initially for the first phase, but stuff like that can be sorted out.
And I think all of that, when people and
it probably will. Alberta still, an independent Alberta would have generally a good reputation, a high GDP, a Western country. I mean, other countries would want to deal with it.
By the way, take what have become very constructive relations with Indigenous people, with First Nations in Alberta, between industry and First Nations, and turn that on its head, have civil disobedience, railway and highway blockades, as opposed to cooperation with First Nations on economic growth and development. When they actually look at that, I think you're going to see some of the bravado.
How are the relations good? They can't build a pipeline. How is that good?
No.
Maybe it's good for the First Nations.
Which is being expressed, turn into a kind of a greater sense of prudence. Yes, we demand respect. We got a provincial government that I think is fighting for that. We've got a federal government that is responding on a number of issues. And so I think we can avoid that kind of a scenario. But, Vashi, as you're saying, in politics, you never know 100%. And I guarantee you that the people, the hardcore separatists, they are going to, they will crawl over broken glass. They're not just angry with Ottawa, they are angry with everything. And this could be one way for them to express it. There could be a lot of, I will say, mainstream, particularly urban, suburban Albertans who don't bother showing up. And then you could have an intensity challenge. So it should not be taken for granted.
Just very quickly, I have a few seconds left, but I did want to ask you about the possibility of the Trump connection. I know that the
JP
group is denying that it's exactly as it's being reported, but they are not denying that they've made trips and had conversations. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. This was yesterday was a huge moment. So many people spoke up against this movement. Before there was, not that much recognition really. There was a news story here and there about the long lines, but there wasn't many politicians in Canada giving their take, and we saw a ton yesterday. Pretty much every premier came out against it, except for Daniel Smith. I don't know, Scott Moe, I don't think he had a take on it, but Daniel Smith had a kind of a nuanced take on it. Everyone else seemed to be very against it.
On that.
Yeah, I think Look, the real problem here is if the Trump administration has been willing to meet with Canadian separatists in secret, which is a clear intervention in our domestic politics. We get quite rightly exercised when we see this happening, this kind of interference.
How is it secret? Because I knew about this before yesterday. Was there some extra meeting that happened that now is the big bombshell? This was been reported on before, that somebody went to go meet with somebody in America. And what is the meeting like? I don't understand what they think happened at that meeting.
In our domestic politics from the People's Republic of China, we should be equally concerned when we see it coming from the United States. The comments of Secretary Bessent demonstrate mischief is at play here.
How? He was talking about a pipeline.
And I would not be, given the way that Donald Trump conducts himself, the least bit surprised if he weighs in heavily on this prospective referendum. I think the government of Canada should be sending very clear signals that would be a bridge too far to step into an effort to tear apart our country. We could not tolerate that. There would have to be sanctions and an effort to create an alliance like Denmark did.
Sanctions?
Very effectively against Trump's threats to invade and annex Greenland.
Okay, what happened at this meeting? I don't understand what they thought what they think happened at the meeting. What is the Trump administration going to do? Like there still needs to be a vote from people that live in Alberta if they want to leave or not, even if the referendum goes through, which it probably will. Like there probably will be a vote, but I do not get what they think happened at that meeting. I'd like to hear a theory on that, but all I hear is outrage. I'm just trying to load up another video here. How's everyone doing this morning?
As the Premier spoke with Mark Carney in Ottawa today, the BC and Alberta leaders both supported Canadian unity, but struck very different tones on the separatist group.
I described it as an old-fashioned word because we haven't had to use it for a long time. In my opinion, that is treasonous activity, and it needs to be called out. It needs to be stopped. Now, I'm not talking about debates that we have inside the country among Canadians about how we order ourselves. I'm talking about crossing the border, soliciting the assistance of a foreign government to break up this country. And I don't think we should stand for it.
We also have to be realistic that 10 years under Justin Trudeau's government, our province was relentlessly attacked. Our economy was relentlessly attacked. So when you look at the polls,
yeah, that's what I thought, JP. Now, just yesterday, this all comes up. I think they're making a mistake so far. I mean, using the word treason, I think that's only going to fire up people in Alberta. It's also very ridiculous how Alberta separatists get treated like this, but the Quebec movement, it's been going on again. Like a lot of those political parties in Quebec are either openly or somewhat open to separatism. And where's the outrage? Like Quebec gets treated way better, of course, than Alberta.
Suggest as many as 30% of Albertans have lost hope. That's about 1 million people. And I'm not going to demonize or marginalize a million of my fellow citizens when they've got legitimate grievances.
Mark Carney's meeting with the premiers also comes after warnings from both the U.S. President and Treasury Secretary over the Prime Minister's speech in Davos. So ahead of the crucial review of the North American trade deal, what did Mark Carney tell premiers about Canada's strategy with the U.S.? Wab Kinew is the Premier of Manitoba, and he joins me now. Premier, always good to see you. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me back.
I want to talk about the Port of Churchill. I want to talk about the state of trade, but I want to start with this sort of the issue that sideswiped the meeting today, and this is the meeting between the Alberta Separatist Movement and the State Department officials in the U.S. Is it appropriate for U.S. State Department officials to meet with the Canadian Separatist Movement?
Well, I think that we're in an unprecedented time as a country. Never before have you, at least not in our lifetimes.
Wab Kinew is actually a good politician, I think. At least, like, I mean, he doesn't take the bait there. He's NDP, but at least the optics game, he actually is quite good at it, I think.
Never heard a president talk about taking over our country. And
I don't know. Like, I'm sure his policies I don't agree with because he's left wing. I'm sure I probably disagree with every policy, but at least at being a media figure, which is definitely part of being a political leader, I think he actually does a good job.
Canadians responded in a way that I'm proud of, which is never. We're never going to be the 51st state. I think that it's really important that we stick together. You know, it's an interesting conversation to try and have because you don't want to necessarily inflame people who are in Alberta in this case, or in another topic of.
See, this is way smarter. This actually is a way better approach. But again, I think it's good for the independence movement that people like David Eby are out there shouting treason. I think it kind of proves their point.
Referenda that we had today related to Quebec and the Parti Québécois. You don't want to inflame things there, but at the same time, you know, I'm coming from a province, Manitoba. You know, if you ask people, do you want to stay in Canada? It would be yeah and heck yeah would be the two questions on the ballot,
Sure.
right? And so, you know, the Trump administration, I don't think we should be surprised at anything that happens with them. And we as Canadians should be cognizant that as we head into the CUSMA review, there's going to be all sorts of stuff thrown at us to try and put us on the back foot. But we
Hello, David. Good morning. Good morning.
need to find a way as a country to be heading into these negotiations around the review on our lead foot and advocating for what we need for our economy and for our country.
When you look at, though, the news of this meeting, and who knows how serious it really was, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at everything the president has said, and the Treasury Secretary is talking, musing out loud about Alberta, maybe they could find a home in the U.S. Do you see this as...
Why do they all lie about this? I played the video in multiple clips. That's not what he said. He was talking about a pipeline. I mean, maybe Scott Bessent was playing like 4D chess and he just threw those two statements together to try to troll people, but he was talking about a pipeline coming down to the US. Yet everyone is freaking out like that's not what he said. Here, look at this clip here. I'll just show this on this other screen. I played this before. He literally says it in the first sentence. Then he talks about coming down to the US. But so many people in Canada either just didn't see that or are clipping this out of context for their own argument.
Alberta is a wealth of natural resources, but they won't let them build a pipeline to the Pacific. I think we should let them come down into the U.S. and Alberta is a natural partner for the U.S. They have great resources. The Albertans are very independent people. Rumor that they may have a
look like he just mentioned a pipeline.
Alberta is a wealth of natural resources, but they won't let them build a pipeline to the Pacific. I think we should let them come down into the U.S. and Alberta is a natural partner for the U.S. They have great resources.
Look, they're stretching that statement like crazy. They're just trying to make it fit their argument. He just said pipeline. Where's that part of it?
Is benign? Because the State Department says they normally meet with civil society groups. This is a normal course of practice. I don't know. Is this normal course of business?
No, this is not the normal course of business because this is not normal times. We are headed into a CUSMA review, which when this CUSMA deal was negotiated was thought to, basically be a check mark. And now the stakes are very high. So I view this as part of a larger context where if you go back to the start of the year, Venezuela, Greenland, shots being, sent towards our prime minister, there's a lot being thrown at us to try and destabilize us and to make us worried like, oh, wow, maybe they don't need trade with Canada. They do. America needs trade with Canada. You look at our province in a state like Iowa. Iowa relies on the millions of weanlings, like pigs, that we send south of the border. There's huge interconnection right across that U.S.-Canada border. So I think we got to be mindful of the fact that a lot is going to happen over the next few months to try and make us negotiate from a weaker position. And we just have to be calm. We have to be strong, and we have to find a way to get back on the lead foot.
So what is your sense of where the footing is of the Canadian government in this? I know you were given an overview of how they're approaching it and where things are, and I appreciate some of this is state secret. You will not or should not probably talk about on national television, but what's your sense of the strategy, the approach, and the plan that the federal government has in this constantly evolving situation to deal with the Trump administration?
Yeah, there is a strategy, first of all, and the federal government, the Prime Minister, Minister LeBlanc, they walked us through a lot of their thinking. They walked us through what they expect in terms of a timeline. They shed a bit of that light behind the scenes at some of the conversations they're having, both with the president, but also with some of his officials. And that's all great. You know, in many ways, those parts of this engagement look more normal, right? You have officials, you have the head of the state, you have others engaging and setting the stage for negotiation, which is all pretty typical. It's just that in the Trump era, this is all happening in a much more televised, entertainment-oriented kind of fashion.
They're a content machine, right? They're constantly generating content.
Absolutely.
The government. So when you look at all of that discord and noise that is in the public sphere on this, after today, is it your sense that that aligns with what's happening in the quieter parts of the relationship and the negotiations, or is that moving at a more typical and normal and comforting fashion? How would you describe it?
Well, part of Trump's style of negotiating is to just completely throw his opponent at the negotiating table off balance. And he does view it as an opponent when it comes to negotiating is the other part of it. So we got to find that balance. I think one of the things that you have seen, when there were comments made against our prime minister and against, our country, when that flared up again within the past week or so, I thought it was pretty savvy that the federal government had Minister LeBlanc come out rather than the prime minister immediately. And then the prime minister, of course, did weigh in eventually. And I think that is part of how you have to respond to the Trump administration is you can't try to keep up with them in a flame war. You can't try to go tweet for tweet or truth social for truth social. No. You have to take a step back and let their media cycle play out and then respond at the time and place of your choosing. So, I think as we look ahead to another 6 months of this heading into the CUSMA review, the federal government's going to have to be very strategic about when and how they respond. And I think if they do that and perhaps weigh in with the sort of moral clarity that we saw from the Davos speech that the Prime Minister gave, if we're able to weigh in on moral clarity, where a Trump administration may not be able to, we might not be able to hang with them in a flame war. Is the Trump administration going to be able to hang with Canada when it comes to the times of moral clarity?
Well, on that, there's been a lot of support for that speech. A lot of Canadians have rallied behind it. A lot of premiers have supported it. We are seeing some criticism, though, of the timing and the stage and the message that was delivered. How do you view it?
Well, I think, I'm not sure if you're talking about voices within our country or the Trump administration criticizing it.
Yeah, just that it provokes the U.S. in a way that maybe isn't wise.
Yeah, and there's going to be people in the business lobby.
Yes, of course.
The timing and the stage and the message that was delivered. How do you view it?
Well, I think,
I'm sure I want to hear that, what he said one more time.
Times of moral clarity.
Well, on that, there's been a lot of support for that speech. A lot of Canadians have rallied behind it. A lot of premiers have supported it. We are seeing some criticism, though, of the timing and the stage and the message that was delivered. How do you view it?
Well, I think
why was that speech good for Canada? Carney's speech. That was good for, I think, Mark Carney to get a standing ovation. How does that help the average Canadian? By the way, I'll probably do a video on this, I think, but Keir Starmer, the leader of UK, said I think it was an interview, but there's no clip of it. It was just like an interview in print. But he was asked about the New World Order kind of thing that Carney brought up. And he said something about, we're just going to continue our common sense approach, something like that. Like he did not aggressively back Mark Carney, even though Mark Carney gave all this big speech, this big dramatic speech about the middle powers of the world getting together. And probably the first place you'd look would be UK. But the UK guy's like, I'm just going to continue my thing. That's at least what it sounded like from what I saw. Again, I think it was a print interview, so there's no clip of that.
How do you view it?
Well, I think, I'm not sure if you're talking about voices within our country or the Trump administration criticizing it.
Yeah, just that it provokes the U.S. in a way that maybe isn't why.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, David, for sure. Scott Bessent understands us better. He actually does. Scott Bessent is so smart. He does. Like the two interviews he's done recently, the one with Posobiec and then on ABC, I think he was asked about Canada in some capacity. Totally. Scott Bessent really understands what is happening. It's crazy. You listen to other people in Canadian positions of power, like on CBC, and they explain everything from such a different view of the world, like globalist, I would say, for the most part. But I totally agree with this comment from David. Scott Bessent does understand Canada.
And there's going to be people in the business lobby in our country and otherwise who say, just keep your head down, negotiate a deal. And I would say no. We have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror as Canadians, as Canada at the end of this. And I think it's completely appropriate for our prime minister to give the speech that he gave at Davos.
What do you mean look yourself in the mirror? Bro, you're a politician. You're supposed to be representing constituents. You can have that mentality if you're like a golfer or something and you have an individual job where you're like, I need to look myself in the mirror and really think I've done all I can do. But that doesn't make sense if you're a politician. I mean, I know a lot of politicians are just crazy selfish anyway, but look yourself in the mirror, I don't think is a stance a politician should be having. It should be, did I serve my constituents today?
And I think everyone, including Donald Trump, should expect that we're still going to show up at the negotiating table and drive a hard bargain when it comes to the CUSMA review. This is who we are as Canadians. We're the adults in the room. We are people who can go into the corners at a hockey rink and then go out for beers at the end of the hockey game. And so, again, we know that Mr. Trump has game on. And let's see where the CUSMA review leads to, because at the end of the day, we're still going to be neighbors. We're still going to be trading partners. And hopefully we can get past an era of the constant back and forth and back towards an era of making money together.
So just on that, given what you were...
I actually like that line he said at the end. That's actually like, I'm fine with that line as a leader of a province.
Past an era of the constant back and forth and back towards an era of making money together.
So
making money together. I don't know. I'll give him credit. I think that was a pretty good line there from Wob.
Just on that, given what you were told in there today and the public noise and the reaction to the Davos speech, I mean, do you feel more confident about the direction of where things are going? Because it is very difficult to know from the outside, looking in whether there's progress, whether there's traction, whether things are moving in the right direction. What is your sense of directionally where things are happening on that detailed, granular conversation level?
Well, today I feel great. We had a great meeting. The Prime Minister is working very well with the premiers. I was able to bring forward Manitoba's priorities on Churchill, on internal trade, on the justice system, and on ag and other topics, immigration as well. And
yeah, hello, Philip. Are you talking about David Eby?
That was great. But here's the thing. What does how we feel today have to do with what's going to happen tomorrow in the Trump era? So the biggest thing is that we got to ride the wave.
The analogy about the hockey rink.
Right? So we're doing good things in the country right now. We're building up momentum. We're building up unity, and that unity is going to be absolutely essential. But we should not kid ourselves that any amount of progress today is the end of the story. We're going to have to keep doing this day after day, week after week, month after month. And if we do that, then I think we have a chance to go up against a very formidable negotiating machine on the other side.
Okay, but broadly, everyone's together. There is a strategy, and you're comfortable with the way they're handling it. Just who knows, because it's Donald Trump, right? Yes, okay, look, I do want to touch on the other thing you raised today, this morning, about having a proponent or close to having a proponent, a major energy company, I believe is the way you described it, as the lead on the Port of Churchill. What more can you tell us about this? Because I know you mentioned non-disclosure agreements because these will be sensitive commercial relations, but when will we know more, and what do we expect to see on this?
Well, it is very exciting for Manitoba. People have been talking about Churchill for 100 years, and now we're at a place where you've got a prime minister who's leading into the economy with urgency. You've got our team in our province. Right?
Yeah, I don't really care about this in this video because this is about Manitoba, but elbows up, unity, what a joke, totally. Kenny's a scumbag, yeah. Maybe I'll play one more short video and then end the stream. I'm just going to do kind of a shorter one today. I'll keep this playing,
Ready
but
to go. And now you have a major energy company stepping forward and saying, we're interested either in being the proponent or being an investor in creating a new proponent to move the project forward. And so for us, this is exciting times because it means this vision that we've been pushing is starting to crystallize into a real economic opportunity.
okay, well, this will be the final video we'll watch probably. Just a short one. PM Carney, Premier Smith addressed Trump administration meeting with Alberta separatists. Let's take a look. And then I'm going to, well, I'll probably work actually on my other YouTube channel for a little bit after this. Have a wonderful day. Hello, Claudette. Thank you. You too. Alberta's money stays in Alberta for Albertans, every single dollar. He is a federalist. Yeah. Hello, Roll. How are you doing? Hello, Carl Solomon. Independence is the only freedom from these commies.
Administration's meetings with Alberta. Prime Minister, what do you make of the Trump administration's meetings with Alberta separatists and the comments of Secretary Bessent? Is this foreign interference from the U.S.?
You know, the governments that are going to make a difference to Canada, to Alberta, to Canada, are at this table, I guess, alongside with municipalities and working with our Indigenous partners. And the focus of the meeting last night, today, the meeting of the Council of Federation before that, was how we come together and build, how we build a better country, how we build safer communities. A number of specific points were just referenced by Premiers Eby and Smith, from addressing extortion, crime in the community. I know Premier Ford and I have been very focused on this as well, as we have across the country. I appreciate the support of the premiers, all the premiers for Bill C-14. It's part of a bigger picture of measures that need to be taken. And just the power, I'm going to stop on this, just the sheer power of what we're starting to do and intend to do on the energy side, being stronger together, linking together our systems, doubling the size.
Hello, Richard. Good morning. 26 billion a year go to the government, 20% Manitoba, 50 Quebec, 30 New Brunswick. No, yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Carney has built nothing. It's all talk. Carney is loyal to the City of London, Chatham House, WF, EU, Brookfield. Maybe sit this one out, Mark. Alberta independence all the way. Hello. Yeah, I think you've already been chatting. Hello, Roland.
Of our electricity grid, extending our clean energy advantage, doing it in a way that's affordable for Canadians, using all our sources of energy to build this economy to all markets around the world, makes this country stronger and makes those conversations less relevant.
With respect, Prime Minister, if you could answer the question on how you view the actions of the U.S. administration here. But for my second question, for Premier Smith, Premier Ford called on you this morning to denounce the separatist movement.
What? The reporter just said that to Carney, then he immediately pivots to Smith? That doesn't really make any sense.
For my second question, for Premier Smith, Premier Ford called on you this morning to denounce the separatist movement. I understand you said you don't want to demonize anyone, but they are seeking the help of the United States government. So what's your response to that? And Prime Minister, if you could please answer the question.
Well, I would expect that the U.S. administration would respect Canadian sovereignty and that they would confine their discussion about Alberta's democratic process to Albertans and to Canadians. And I will raise that with my delegate in Washington so he can raise it with members of the administration. And I will raise it with my delegate in Ottawa so he can raise it with the U.S. ambassador.
I fully associate myself with Premier Smith's comments just then. We expect the U.S. administration to respect Canadian sovereignty. I'm always clear in my conversation with President Trump to that effect, and then move on to what we can do together. Thank you.
Next question.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to finish the stream here. Thanks for watching.
Turn now to our
subscribe. I'll probably be releasing more videos, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, like I said, have a great day. Thanks for watching. See you all later. Hello, Ghost. Ghost of a chance.